This is episode 2 of the Rebel Health Spotlight. I am here with my friend Joe Rignola. Joe, man, it's fun to be back on the screen.
It's a pleasure to be here, Mike. I'm a little offended on that episode one, but I'll let it
I'm
slide.
episode 1.
Okay, that's fair.
No, you're the first guest. So,
Oh, oh, then I am
yeah, yeah,
honored.
yeah.
Got it.
For those who don't know, Joe is the other co-founder of RHT, which we are rolling up on 10 years pretty soon. I think
Crazy,
next
right?
year is 10
Yeah,
years from when we first started this thing, and that's pretty wild.
yeah.
And there's a there's a long story behind that, and we don't need to share the whole story.
Well, they can
But
go back and watch the podcast episode where we
yeah, the
do.
podcast, I think the podcast is also episode 2 of the
Yeah,
podcast, has the whole story. So we started RHT and worked together on it for about 5 years, I think, and then we worked together on Human Longevity Project. And now I'll let you tell them a little about yourself and what you're
sure.
up to now, and then we can talk about some other things after that.
Yeah, I mean the that span of time over the last 10 years or so has been uh, pretty complex and a lot going on there. So yeah, we worked on human longevity and then for the first time in about 10 years, I went out on my own and started my own company again. I started out probably about 13 or 14 years ago with a company called Wellness Punks and did that for a few
I'm
years.
still jealous of that name.
It's a good name. I lost the domain name though, sadly. So it's out there in the ether. Someone else owns it, but all good. So that was mainly like one-on-one coaching. Uh, then we started Rebel Health Tribe with Primal 90 about 10 years ago. Um, so it feels good and scary to be on my own again. There was obvious benefits to having a business partner, with not having to lift all the heavy weight myself and having some accountability and things like that. But I'm happy to be on my own
And
for a
what's the
while.
project? What's your new thing?
It's called wellconnected.tv. That's the website and the company name. And we have a series of educational master classes and there's a membership there where you can go in and guided meditations and audio courses. So I have a few audio courses in there, which are in different subjects that people can just listen to in their cars or while they're cleaning or wherever they are, which is really convenient. People seem to like those. We have some master classes similar to the ones we did with Rebel Health Tribe. The last one we did was called Rewire Your Brain Masterclass, which is really the direction I see myself going for the foreseeable future, which is really just about mindset and managing stress and anxiety and dealing with childhood trauma, which we could talk probably for
Well, it's kind of how
hours
you got
on that.
into
Yeah.
well, like it's kind of full circle a little bit because
Yeah.
like I know Joe's story. So like the thing that got Joe into like health and wellness in the first place was he was taking antidepressants or anti-anxiety
Yeah.
medications or something and
Yeah.
started trying he got brain zaps and was having all these crazy side
Right.
effects from them and was like, okay, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I need to get myself in order. Like I need to
Mhm.
get my health. I need to prioritize myself and my well-being because
That's
this
right.
is the road that is not a good road that I'm going down. Which is when you got into the nutrition and the lifestyle stuff and
Mhm.
the functional medicine kind of things and whatever. Um,
Yeah, it became clear to me that I wasn't deficient in Paxil. That was not my issue.
yeah,
And so when I tried to wean off of it, I got these brain zaps, which was the short version is it kind of feels like you're sticking your finger in a light socket, only it's your brain. And then
I'll
that's when I realized
I'll
there has to be a
pass.
better way, looked into lifestyle, medicine, um, uh, diet, food, things like that. And that's where
But then it kind
I feel the most.
of led you eventually in a roundabout way, kind of like myself. Like a lot of people you've interviewed a lot of people in this industry too, and a lot
Mhm.
of functional medicine doctors and other health practitioners, a lot of them got into this because they got sick. Like they
Right.
got cancer or they got an autoimmune disease or they had some like digestive problem or some like physical health problem. Both
Yeah.
of us wound up doing this kind of stuff because we had like mental health problems or
Right.
like anxiety or those kind of things. But neither of us jumped right into doing that kind of work.
Yeah.
I
which
don't know
seems,
if like the diet and the nutrition and the functional medicine stuff is a little more approachable,
I think it's approachable and it
or
seems easier, right? I can change the way I eat. I can go to bed on time. I can get better sleep. I can, you know, manage all that lifestyle stuff much easier than managing my thoughts or digging up, not necessarily digging up, but navigating some of the micro traumas. And for me, that's what it was. For me, it was like a lot of these different seemingly insignificant or micro events. I just started writing a book. I just started a year ago, and I'm only 2 chapters in. But there's a chapter in it called "You Had a Shitty Childhood," which basically is like, no matter how good your childhood was, and my childhood, by all accounts, was pretty darn good. Yet there were still these events that happened that affect me to this day. And I don't think we put enough weight on these, what are called small T traumas. Um,
yeah,
and that's not obviously, if you have significant trauma, loss, and abuse and things like that, obviously that's needs to be addressed, and those are horrible things. But everyone has some form of trauma. That's sort of my thesis now is, and if you're continue to just blow it off as, oh yeah, it wasn't a big deal, and brush it under the rug, the more it's going to control you. And that's kind of where I'm at now. That work never really stops.
so yeah, I totally agree. And I've done a lot of work under Gabor Mate, and
Right.
he talks about that all the time. And when he's working with someone and they say, my childhood was fine, nothing happened,
Mhm.
he knows he has an interesting client on his hands,
Yeah.
because then he'll ask a few different probing questions and he'll find something that drove their behaviors. And when it comes to physical health stuff, these things also drive physical disease and the stress from it, and when people couldn't adhere to protocols I would give them, or diets or things like that, and I'd be like, you have everything in front of you you're supposed to
Yeah.
do, why can't you do it? And there's
Exactly.
always a story behind that, and a mental side of that, and an emotional side of that. And
Mhm.
um I've
Yeah, I
now
have a very
learned
similar.
that and understand that a
Yeah.
lot better.
Yeah, a
um
very similar experience when I started out with Wellness Punks doing coaching. There was actually always almost the flip side of that. I always had a client that complied with everything, really did everything to the T, and yet they still couldn't get the results. They still had the symptoms, they couldn't lose the weight, whatever it was. And then we kind of dug a little bit deeper and realized they had some sort of a trauma. I would refer them out to someone to help them with that. And lo and behold, once they started to process those past traumas, the symptoms would go away, they would lose the weight, they'd feel better, they'd have more energy, all the things. So that was really the first time I started to question, you know, yeah, diet and lifestyle is important, eating clean, organic, all that stuff's important, but there's a bigger piece upstream that we need to deal with.
for sure. So your arc kind of went from having mental health and stress and burnout and all these
Depression.
things
Yeah.
to like nutrition and wellness and functional medicines type stuff and lifestyle, and then now more into the mental and thoughts
Mhm.
and the emotional and the trauma side. Um, if and just one more time, it's wellconnected.tv is where people can
Yeah,
find the work you're doing now.
exactly. Yeah.
uh the Rewire Your Brain
Yeah,
masterclass was your
rewire your
most
brain.
recent one, so you're moving
Mhm.
moving in that direction. So we'll have all the links down below for you guys to
Mhm.
go check out that stuff. But if you can give people a few things that you've learned over the years that would be needle movers, whether it's something that's related more to mental health, or if it's something from your time with nutrition or lifestyle or any of that, um, that they could walk away from listening
Mhm.
to this and start doing tomorrow, what
Yeah.
would be a few recommendations you'd make?
I'll do a couple from each sort of category.
Sure.
First, let's sort of tackle lifestyle stuff. For me, two of the things that have helped the most, one is intermittent fasting, which, for me, I do about an 8 hour window, feeding window. So if you can delay breakfast until about 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock, and then have your last meal somewhere around 6 or 7 o'clock, there's so many benefits for that. And we're not obviously not going to have time to talk about all of those things, but just as far as something really simple that really doesn't take a lot of effort, like eating your last meal at 7 o'clock at night and then not eating your next meal until 11 o'clock the next morning doesn't seem that difficult, and it's not. But there's a tremendous amount of benefits from that. And then the other thing is cold exposure. It's super simple. If you can do a cold plunge, like an ice bath for 30 seconds to 3 minutes, you know, a ton of benefits from that. But the most interesting benefit from that is my mental health. I notice it's funny,
And
my
you
son
can start
Mason,
with like a shower, right? Like if
you can
people
start
don't
with a
have like the
shower.
ice bath
I
and stuff,
for me, I find turning the shower cold is harder than just jumping in an ice bath.
I agree, and I've tried both, and I
Yeah.
I hate both. I understand there's tons of benefits. I'm like I
Yeah.
hate cold person, so it's extra hard for me.
Same.
And
Same.
in a cold body of water is easier for me.
Yeah.
Turning the dial on the shower and the water turns
Brutal.
cold and you're just standing there. I'm like, dude, I'd rather get punched in the face. Like this
But
is
how do you feel right after?
usually really good,
Like
and like
almost
laugh at
euphoric.
myself for how much I
Yeah.
didn't want to do it.
Exactly. Well, I mean, there's obvious that there's like a dopamine hit from there. You survived. Your body thought it
Yeah.
was basically going into hypothermia and dying, and then you survived. So you're like used a lot of happy chemicals that get released during that process to
Yeah.
simplify it. But yeah, there's obvious benefits to, cold thermogenesis and protein and all the benefits. But for me, it's like the mental benefit of it is amazing. So
Doing
those are
something.
two things, like two simple things that people can do.
Yeah.
Simple, not necessarily easy, but certainly simple, and they can
Okay.
cost nothing, and they can do that right now. Um, as far as the mental health piece, I think the most important thing that I've sort of learned over the last several years of digging into this is that we're not supposed to do this alone, and you really can't do it alone.
Yes.
What's that?
What do you mean this? We're not supposed to do this alone.
The deeper sort of inner work, the navigating the past experience, past traumas, the processing of those events, um, you need to ask for help. I think that's probably the biggest thing, asking for help, surrounding yourself with some sort of support group, which could be one person or 5 people or what have you. So, but asking, being brave enough to ask for help. And it shows that word intentionally, because it does seem like an act of courage or bravery to ask for help. At least it was for me. And I think that's true for you too.
Yeah,
And it's true for a lot of
and
people.
this culture needs to reframe the way that it
Yeah.
looks at things like that because
Mhm.
it's kind of like a bootstrappy individualistic culture where
Yep.
asking for help is sometimes looked at as like weakness or something else,
Exactly.
and it's
Yeah.
it's difficult to do, and I wouldn't be here if I didn't do it.
Hmm.
So
Absolutely. Yeah.
it's always better, like the fear, the thing you're afraid of doesn't happen when you ask for help. So
Yeah.
like about, they're going to think this or someone's going to
Right.
think this, and even if it's to a friend, like you don't have to talk to a
Mhm. Yeah.
professionals are great, but like I don't think you mean like it has to be that, like it's
No,
just
it doesn't have to be, but it probably should be.
it
Like you
should be
probably
for
should
the
have.
deeper level things, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And that's like the
Yeah.
work I'm starting to do now, and I have been the first person that a lot of people have talked to
Yeah.
about any of the things or worked through with any of the things. And I've had sessions with people where we finish and I really didn't do anything or
Mhm.
say much at all. And there was like a huge shift for them because I listened to what they said and I sat with them and I didn't judge it. And
Mhm.
I was still there with them at the end
Exactly.
when they had told me the things, and I've seen that alone transform people in a pretty powerful way, even without doing anything or saying anything or whatever. So
Yeah, but
that's a
sitting
good,
there and listening and being present and creating that space is doing
because
something, right?
nobody ever listened to them before.
Right, exactly. Simon
Yeah.
Sinek has this great quote, for those who know Simon Sinek. Um, he says, just sit in the mud with me. Like, that's it. Just sit in the mud with me.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's the most powerful thing you can do. And like, so yeah, surround yourself with friends who will listen. And I think we need to normalize therapy. I
I think
think
that's happening.
I think
I
so
think
too.
that
But
that's
yeah,
happening. The younger people, maybe not yet with our age, but the
I
younger
think
people
if
for
you're
sure.
I think
But
if you're human, you need someone. You need a therapist, a coach, a mentor, a
yeah,
psychologist, someone who's going to help guide you through, someone who maybe is just up the road a little bit further, that
yeah,
could help guide you through. I think it's super important. We need to normalize therapy. Like it's crazy. Like I said, everyone has some form of trauma. Even if you think you had the most amazing childhood, you're human, things happen. Tripping on the sidewalk in fifth grade and being laughed at is pretty significant when you're in fifth grade. We can laugh at it
yeah.
as adults,
People
but
don't
in fifth
realize
grade,
like the
yeah,
perspective on the things that happened. Like you look back at it as an adult and you're like, that's not a big deal.
exactly.
But when you're in fifth grade,
Everything.
that's the end of the world.
Yep. And that
And
that fifth grade is still inside, calling the shots and running the show and
yeah,
making
then you feel
really
like
bad
I'm gonna
decisions
screw
for
up.
you.
I'm gonna embarrass myself in front of people. I'm stupid.
Yep.
People are gonna laugh at me. Like those stories then get
Yeah.
ingrained and then they follow you into your adult
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, look for
for
help
sure.
is probably the other thing is to state something really simple that I do something called Take Five. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, where you just, it's kind of like a breathing tactile um, exercise where you put your index finger. I don't know if people are listening or watching this. Put your index finger at the base of the palm of your hand. Take a deep breath in and follow it up your thumb, and then breathe out back down to the palm of your hand, and do that with each finger. And just take a long, deep, intentional breath with each finger. Um, it's kind of a way to get you out of that fight or flight mode pretty quickly. So,
Yeah. Brings you
and
present
then
with some
and then
tactile touch.
yeah, exactly. Get you out of your head and into your body, which is super
Yeah,
important. That's a whole episode. We can talk for hours on just getting out of your head and into your body. But it's a really quick way to do that. And then you should probably still ask for help after that.
cool. No, that's useful, and all of those things are things people can do really easily. So he shared intermittent fasting, cold water or cold exposure, and asking for help, and then a take five exercise, which he just demonstrated. So you can play that back and try that out and let us know what you guys think. And it's these little things like people come. The reason I wanted to have these little things at the end of each episode is because
Mhm.
when I used to work with functional medicine style clients, like people would come and they'd want to do these like extravagant protocols. And I want to run
Right,
these 6 lab tests and take these
right.
22 supplements and go to this therapy and do this thing and do this thing. And I'm like, what time do you go to bed?
Yeah, exactly.
And they're like 1 o'clock. And I'm like, let's work on that
Mm.
first.
Mm.
And it's these little like
Yeah.
little tiny things that add up that are free, that are easy, that shift
Mm.
the way your day goes and shift the state that your body's in.
Mm.
Because if a body's in a freaked out state and a stress state and a running state, no matter how many protocols you do, it's going to stay like that. So,
Exactly. Yeah. Cool.
great stuff, man. So head on over to Joe's site, wellconnected.tv down
Mm.
below,
Mm.
and check out his master classes, check out his the videos, the audios there. And yeah, I'm just grateful you came on, man. It's always fun to connect. It's
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
cool, this thing that we created together and what it's kind of morphed into and out of and back into and out of over the
Yeah.
years. And I'm starting to go do some stuff on my own now for the first time in,
Yeah.
well, ever really at this
Yeah.
scale, like with like at the scale that we're at now, like the first time ever, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is a lot different. And it's like
It's scary and awesome and amazing
you
all at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. And but there isn't like, yeah, you do the heavy lifting and you're accountable to yourself and
Exactly.
so it's good. I think I'm ready for it. I'm fine. Like I think I can do it. I'm excited for it. So thank you so much, man. Everybody
Sure.
check
Thank you.
anything we referenced, there'll be links to it underneath. And you can go check out Joe's site and Joe's work, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Appreciate it.